Hello, Guillermo. How are you?
Hello, very nice to meet you. Happy to
Yes,
be here.
I am excited about Bnext. A lot of people who are watching us right now are excited about the Bnext. You are an amazing player in the ecosystem. So I have a lot of questions today in the short time that we have.
Of course.
But maybe first tell us a little bit about your background before Bnext, things that you've done, and then we'll dive into the product and everything.
Of course. So, look, I studied both laws and business here in Madrid, and then I did a master's in Paris. And I started working as a lawyer. I did litigation and international arbitration. So basically, I was helping Spanish companies that had investment conflicts worldwide to try and solve those via arbitration. I spent there somewhere around 2 years, I think it is, 2 point something years. And I pretty quickly realized that that wasn't not really my thing. So I then moved to investment banking and I worked for BBVA. For those of you who don't know, it's a big Spanish bank. I was based in Madrid. I was mostly covering deals here in Spain and in Latin America. And I was doing investment banking. I did project finance, acquisition finance, things like that, right? Mostly focused in the energy sector. So although I have and then from there I moved to ING. I was doing more or less the same financial product from for a different asset class. So I would do project finance for real estate. So as you can see, I have kind of a banking background, but nothing exactly related to what we're building here at Bnext. However, it's true that this banking background, it's a bit kind of the inception or the sort of the first question we want to answer with Bnext is a bit related to my previous experience in banking, because I thought, so when we did this kind of acquisition finances and project finances, I could see that if you look at the P&L of those deals, they were very profitable, except when you included the regulatory costs around it, right? Which dragged a lot of the profitability of the bank. And it, not only that, but it complicated it operationally speaking, right? So the first thing that we were thinking, me and my co-founder, it was, is there a way to give banking services to our clients without being a bank and therefore not being constrained by the banking regulation, therefore being a bit more flexible in what you want to do? No? Let me say that it's not that we have tried to contour regulation or we've tried to just avoid it. We're happy to be compliant, but it was, and we're a fully licensed entity, but sort of the initial thinking was trying to build a structure that doesn't have to rely on a full banking license, and therefore it's not sort of subordinated to such strict regulation as banks have got today, right? As you probably know, it's one of the problems that they have got is that this regulation leaves them very little headroom, very little flexibility, right? So that was a bit the inception. So even if I never did sort of retail banking myself, I never did consumer banking, consumer finance myself, it was my banking background a bit the sort of the inception of the project itself.
Yeah. So you went through that path without a license, or how did you start Bnext?
Look, the whole starting point, as I said, was trying to answer the question, is there a way to give banking services without being a bank, right? You have to think that at the same time, we were seeing in Spain a dramatic increase of fintech products, right? Fintech projects. Back in the day, the products that we would see here were very verticalized, right? So they were trying to solve a small part of the whole sort of retail banking relationships, right? So we were starting to see online lenders, we would see robo-advisors, stock trading, right? Those kind of things, but that are very vertical, right? So kind of our first thinking was, if we combine both ideas, right? The fact that there are a number of fintech players that are very vertical, but that they have got very nice products and most of the cases very nice pricing as well, better pricing than banks have got, combined with the idea that we were trying to solve to see if we could give banking services without being a bank, is when we came with the idea of building a marketplace, right? So the way we thought of this was, okay, so what we do is we link in one single point of access, in one app, all of the different fintech products that are out there in a way that we can help our clients find a one-stop shop where they can find access to all of the different alternatives. We can facilitate the providers also having access to a wider audience, right? Because those projects were still quote unquote small in Spain, right? And therefore we could sort of canalize some of the traffic that we could collect to them, right? And that's basically the first thing we built, right? First thing ever we built at Bnext was exactly that. Was an app where we would connect other fintech providers. It had what we call PFM capabilities, personal finance management, right? So you could connect other bank accounts, so you could see your overall position in all of the banks that you were using, and then you could access and buy products from different providers, right? So purely a marketplace there. We launched that somewhere around April, if I remember correctly, April 2017. I gotta say that we were pretty successful with that product, successful in the context where we were back then, right? So we didn't have no money, right? No, a very small team, but we did see some traction in that product. We did see people downloading the app and accessing and buying things online. However, the problem that we faced back then is that people would download the app, look around, eventually buy some things in the marketplace, and then never come back, right? And the reason we figured out it was because, to be very honest, I think that retail banking services, retail banking business is something that, except maybe for a few geeks like you and I that are into this industry, it's something that's not super interesting, right? It's something that people just won't wake up any given day and say, hey, what's the best pension plan out there, right? Or what's the best credit card out there, right? So that's when we thought, okay, so it looks like our offering makes sense. However, we need to build something that's more sticky, right? Or it's more recurrent use, right? And that's when we decided, of course, back then we already knew of projects or bigger neobanks such as Revolut or Monzo or sort of the first wave of UK neobanks, N26 in Germany and so on. So that's when we thought, okay, so it might make sense to build an account and a card on top of this so people can use it for the daily spending. And when the time comes that they are going to need this product, because it is true that retail banking services nobody cares about, but everybody needs, right? Yeah. So we thought, okay, so we build an account and a card on top of the marketplace that we had already. And then so trying to sort of achieve that people would use the account and the app on a regular basis daily. So when the time comes and they need a financial product, they can access our marketplace and buy whatever's best for them, right? And that's exactly what we did. So basically what we back then, again, we didn't have a lot of money or visibility as of how this was going to play out. So we basically did what every other player more or less has done in Europe, which is partner with a third party that would open the accounts and issue the card for us, right? We would use a Spanish company that's called Pecunia, probably haven't heard of, but it's basically an e-money institution that gave us those services, like bank as a service kind of thing, right? So we connected with them. That started getting traction pretty fast. It took us a few months to have everything ready. We launched a beta in September, if I remember correctly. And then in December, we launched like an open version of the app, right? And it started getting traction pretty fast. And at some point, we realized that our thinking around we need to build something that's more sticky, that's more recurrent, like the account on the card, and then upsell our customers or cross-sell different products via the marketplace, we were right. So we started the process of getting our own e-money license, right? Initially, we were not planning to do that because we thought that the card wouldn't be a core part of our business, or it might be a core part of our product offering, but it wouldn't be a core part of our business, and that we could make unit economics work without having our own license. We then realized that it made a lot of sense for us, financially speaking, both from the revenue and the cost perspective, and also to be able to control or to be owners of the full tech and regulatory stack. We decided it made sense to just obtain our own license. So we did that. We started the process in Spain. It took us quite some time to get it because when we started it in the first dossier we filed to Bank of Spain here was under PSD1. And then in the middle of the process, PSD2 came into full force in Spain. Spain was the last country in Europe to transpond the European regulation to national law. And therefore, it happened right in the middle of our process. So more or less, we had to like rebuild the entire dossier and reset conversations with Bank of Spain. We did that successfully and we obtained our e-money license.
So you had the money to apply for that? to be like?
We had the money, yeah, of course, in this process. Basically, what happened for us, and I'm assuming it's very similar for all the other players, right? But what happened for us is that working with this third-party provider allowed us to sort of grow the client base sufficiently and to prove that our product had a market fit here and that we were able to execute and deliver good enough, right? And that in that process, we were able to fundraise. And with that money, we were able to apply for the e-money institution, right? In the process of obtaining the e-money license, we fundraised several times, right? Because the process was pretty long. The project was growing very fast. So we were lucky enough to fundraise a few times. But yeah, the moment we decided to apply for the license was when we were able to close our seed round, which was around 1.5 million euros. That gave us enough money to sort of sustain the process.
So this is the background. And you've a lot of lessons here, by the way. You know, I like keep on thinking about this whole process and how you build a product and meanwhile try to raise money. A lot of work. So where are you right now in your product offering? Tell me some data, so I know like what's going on exactly right now.
So look, like I said, we launched in December 2017, an open version. From September to December, it was a beta. A lot of learnings there, but we didn't really grow the client base significantly. So I think we finished the beta with around 300 customers, so nothing very significant. I mean, for us back in the day, it was huge, right? But today we're doing that like daily or twice that daily, right? Wow. So we launched in December 2017. Our first year, we finished with 100,000 activated cards. For us, the KPI that we look internally, or what we think it's relevant, it's people that have got a Bnext card in their wallet, right? Meaning we don't think it makes a lot of sense to be monitoring. Well, we do monitor everything, of course, but we don't think it makes a lot of sense to be reporting things such as downloads, sign-ups, open accounts, right? For us, what's relevant is someone that holds a Bnext card in their wallet, right? So year one, we got to almost 100,000 new activated users, we call them internally. By the end of 2019, so year two, we had around 350,000, and today we have got around 400. And in total, worldwide, we've got 500,000. The split is somewhere around 420 in Spain and 80,000 in Mexico. Okay.
So these are the markets?
What's that, sorry?
These are the markets that you're operating in right now?
Exactly. We've been present in Spain for somewhere around 3 years. In Mexico, we launched in March this year, I think it was March, April. So we've only been present for a few months in Mexico. So although the 80,000 customers that we have got in Mexico may seem a small number compared to the 400 and something thousand that we have got here in Spain, if you compare apples to apples, it took us a little under 1 year to get to those 80,000 customers that we now have in Mexico. And in Mexico, we were able to do that in somewhere around 3 or 4 months, right? So Mexico is really accelerating 3 times faster than what
and
we
now
saw.
the product is pretty mature, and you know your focus, you know what you're doing for the user. So lead me for maybe let's talk about the popular features and things that makes the stickiness from your perspective, the community that you have. Are you learning from these users?
Mm-hmm. Of course. So look, let me go back to this beta testing process, right? Because it is a bit sort of the inception of what we're doing now, and a lot of the learnings that we had then we still apply today, right? You have to think that back then when we launched, we literally didn't have no money left, or very, very little money left, right? So that meant when we did the beta test, meant that basically every single card that we gave someone needed to give us relevant information, right? That we could pivot around, that we can sort of try and analyze what was being interesting, what wasn't, what was working, what wasn't working, right? So at that point, we decided to sort of follow a beta testing process that's very similar to what Monzo did in the UK. We love how Monzo has built the product in the community and so on. So we tried to mirror a number of the things that they did, one of which was this beta testing process. So basically what we did is, instead of just putting the app in the app store and sending cards to whoever downloaded it and doing some online marketing, what we did was we would either invite people over to our office to explain them what is it that we were building and hand them, like in hand, a card that they could use, or we would go to, say, the tech departments of big four consultancy firms. We would go to the tech departments of banks, VC industry, other startups, right? So we would basically try to focus in the tech community in Madrid first. And we would go there and again, explain them what is it that we were building. And for those who were interested, we would give them one card, right? That, of course, it's a very, so we cannot escalate a business very fast that way. However, it's very interesting because first of all, someone that goes to an event that you call via Twitter for a company like us that we were like literally no one, right? I mean, we're still working our way into the sort of the bigger players, right? But back then we were literally no one. Someone that comes to that kind of event, what you know for sure is that he's a fintech geek, right? And he's super into what you're doing, right? And therefore, the feedback that we're gonna collect from that kind of guy or that kind of girl it's super, super relevant, right? So what we saw that was very surprising that happened back then is that even if we were only able to talk, this beta testing period lasted somewhere around 2 months, right? 2 point something months. We did this in Spain, then we moved this to Barcelona, we did it in Bilbao, Valencia, so like the biggest cities in Spain, right? It was very tiring, very fun, very tiring. And then what happened is that in those events, we talked to somewhere around 200 customers. However, we finished the process having somewhere around 600 users, right? Basically because people that came to those events would typically say, can I have not one card, but 2 or 3, because I want to give one to my friend, to my girlfriend, to my dad, whatever, right? So that helped us very quickly understand firsthand what is it that our customers like, what they were using it for, what we were missing that we needed to build, and it also helped us build a process via which, again, our initial thinking was every card we hand to someone needs to end up activated because we need to collect that data, right? Because otherwise it's just throwing money to the bin, and we didn't have a lot of money back then, right? That has helped us build a process that we still keep today, and that helps us have somewhere around 98% of the cards that we send end up being activated, right? And that's because of the onboarding process that we were able to sort of draft with those learnings and everything. Mm-hmm. After that, what we saw people were using us for, and to keep it a bit short, is the sort of the main use that people do of their Bnext account today. What we found out is that people find it easier to understand their personal finances and their daily spending with us than they do with the traditional bank, right? So the typical behavior of our customers is that they divide the money they make in 3 big blocks. First block being the mortgage or rent that you need to pay. The second block being the money they want to save and the money they use for their receipts, so the gym, phone, electricity, so on. And the third block is sort of their pocket money, right? The money they spend for the daily spending. So that's the money they move to our account and they use it for their daily spending, right? And a couple of data points here that I think are relevant to sort of illustrate this that I'm saying. For us, the number 1 online merchant where we see more transactions happening is Amazon. During the quarantine, it was overnight, it moved to AliExpress. We really don't know what happened there, but it moved to AliExpress overnight, but it has typically been Amazon. And number 1 offline merchant where we collect a bigger number of transactions is Mercadona. Mercadona is a big supermarket chain here in Spain. Okay, it's very, very big. However, being Amazon number 1 online, it only represents 2% of the total of the transactions that we have. It's only 2%. And Mercadona being number 1 offline, it only represents 3% of the total transactions. This basically gives you a high-level vision that what's happening for us is that people use us for their daily spending, right? So it's very heterogeneous, it's very fragmented, it happens in a lot of different places, right? So it's not a very clear use case like people would use us for online purchases or for traveling, or for people use us basically for their daily spending, right? And the reason why we were able to double down on that is because during our beta testing period, what we basically learned is that first question that people would ask is, why do I need another card, right? I already have one, right? So we needed to sort of double down in the fact that our app and our, the things that you do with your card more often, which is basically check your balance, pay, and send money to someone, it was easier, faster, and nicer with us than it was with the traditional bank, right? Then what happens is that after people use us for X amount of time, we sort of gain their trust, and then they would start buying things out in the marketplace, right? So today, in our marketplace, we are selling 18 different products, everything going from, so all of the big verticals in the retail banking business, so lending, investments, insurance, and savings, right? So for instance, so to give you like a high level sense, lending, we are selling mortgages, consumer loans, payday loans. In the insurance, we are selling life insurance, health insurance, travel, mobile, purchase insurance, a number of different things. In the investment side, we're selling robo-advisors, crowd lending. We're now releasing crypto and stocks, so a number of different things, right? What we try to do, and you probably heard other players talk about the marketplace. I think that it's fair to say that we are the only ones that have got an actual marketplace. Because what we try to do is help our customers find the product that's best for them. So we have a number of different providers per every vertical, and we try and help them. This doesn't mean that we do active portfolio management. This doesn't mean that I would recommend you specifically a product specifically for you, but rather something that we cluster customers, we understand their behavior, a lot of that analysis there, and then we offer them products that are relevant for them.
So these are
that means
third party players that you connected with, and
exactly.
then provide these services to the user.
Exactly. And what happens is that the marketplace is dynamic, meaning it shows different products to different customers depending on the clustering, right? So we don't show everything to everyone, because one learning that we had very early on is we thought that the more products you could put to the marketplace, the better. That very quickly turned out not to be true, because it makes a lot of noise in your decision-making process, especially for a retail banking product that's not super interesting, right, like we discussed. So basically what we try to do is we curate the offer upfront for our customers, and we only offer them what's relevant, right? So we make it
how do you stay focused? Because there's so many banks, traditional banks, so much noise. So somebody who goes and hear for the first time about Bnext, and I'm asking them because it's a challenge. You can sell this thing and this thing. How do you focus? Like, what is your promise? What is the statement when I go to Bnext? What is the brand? What does it mean, Bnext?
So look, let me just share with you one data point that I think it's interesting. If you look at the entire period since we launched to today, 77% of the total customers that we have acquired to date have come to us either organic or referral, right? Which is basically organic is just access in the App Store, referral is just people inviting each other, right? So the main reason why people use us is because someone else has recommended it, right? Which is, therefore, I really cannot tell you why is it that people are recommending it to each other, right? What we would typically do in the early days is try to find an entry point, right? Something that is relevant for our customers. So you can use us because you have got free ATM withdrawals, you have got better FX rates, you have got the account is free, right? So easy entry points, right? And then once we had sort of gained that customer, we would teach them all of the other things that they have got that they can use, right? What we try to do, or the promise, or sort of the vision that we try to share with our customers is that we wanna, so it takes a lot of hard effort for you to earn money. We want to help you spend it as wise as possible, right? So be relaxed, and we can sort of help you find the product that's best for you. And we can do that by, instead of, look, what traditional banks would do is just charge you with 1,000 fees, right? And then sell them the products that they have got, which might not be the best one for you, right? So the way we market this to our customers is that we can help you optimize your spending, we can help you optimize your financial life, because we don't own our own products, so we can be neutral and help you find the one that's best for you, right? However, to be very honest, this message, it is sometimes a bit difficult to put up front, so it's easier to just tell our customers something simple, like use us for traveling. Well, there's no more traveling, right? But we use us for ATM withdrawals, or use us because it is going to be easier for you to budget if you just use our card to move the money that you're going to spend daily. And then after that, we sort of try to upsell them and cross-sell them the other sort of the bigger vision, right? Which is that we can help them in their sort of financial life by helping them find whatever is relevant for them.
Yeah. Future markets, plans, stuff that you're already launching these days that you can reveal, of course.
Of course. We're always very transparent. We're happy to share everything that we're doing with everyone. And one thing that you mentioned is that we've got an online community that helps us a lot in building the product, right? So everything that we would want to do, we would first do a sneak peek in the community so they can like let us know whether that makes sense or it doesn't. It is hard sometimes to have an online community as big as ours because our clients are very demanding, right? And they would be very on top of things, right? And they would want to make sure that we are delivering. But it is a good pressure and it helps us build the kind of product that they want, right? This being said, we launched in Spain because it's our home market and it's what we know better. And we saw a big opportunity here because when we launched, the bigger players like Revolut and N26 were already here, but still small, and the market is big. Spain's one of the bigger, the most banked countries worldwide. So there was a big opportunity here. We launched here. However, we always had the vision of becoming a leading player for the Spanish-speaking world, right? So Spanish-speaking Latin America. The reason being not only the language, of course, but you have to think that there are huge commercial relationships from Spain with Latin America. There are huge immigration flows from Spain and to Latin America and from Latin America to Spain. So it makes a lot of sense for us to try to cover those corridors, right? It's not only the language helps, of course, but it's a different Spanish, what we talk here to what they talk in Mexico, whatever. So we, of course, understand each other, but it's not the language what's driving our decisions. It's a bit more the money flows, the people and the companies, right? This being said, we had to decide when it was the right time, which was earlier this year. We needed to decide whether where do we start this international expansion, right? So at that point, we did, of course, very thorough analysis. Long story short, we decided to launch in Mexico, mostly for 3 reasons. First of all, Mexico is a very big market, and it is on a standalone, very interesting, right? So even if we were not able to continue expanding internationally to other Latin American countries, Mexico would be a very good market per se, right? Second thing is that Mexico has got a pretty solid fintech regulation, right? So November 2018, I think it was, Mexico published a fintech law. It's pretty solid, right? And for us, even if the whole inception was trying to avoid banking regulation, we're not trying to avoid regulation as a whole, right? We'd rather have a clear set of rules that we could use, right? So Mexico was a good starting point because the regulation was very solid, and to some extent, Mexico was kind of mirroring how Spain had transponded the European regulation, right? So at some point, a lot of the things that we had built in Spain, we could recycle for Mexico, right? And then there was a third consideration that might seem a bit counterintuitive, but it wasn't for us, and I think we were right. It is very difficult to be the first player in a particular market, right? You either have hundreds of millions in the bank account, or it is very expensive to create the category, right? And in that regard, we didn't have that kind of money. So it makes more sense for us, or back then it made more sense to launch in a country where fintech was already a category, where there was some competition, which it was in Mexico. However, the opportunity was still pretty greenfield, right? So there was some competition, but not huge players. Still a good opportunity, but we are not gonna need to spend a lot of money in creating the category, right? Explaining people what is it, fintech, what's a neobank, and so on and so forth, right? So the combination of the 3 made us decide we would want to launch in Mexico first and use Mexico as sort of the headquarters for our Latin American expansion, right? So if it wasn't for COVID, that has made all of us a bit more cautious, we were planning to launch Colombia and Peru this second half of the year, right? We're still planning to do that. The only thing is that COVID has put like a big parenthesis on our plans, right? So it's not going to happen now. It's probably going to happen sometime in Q1, end of Q1, Q2 next year, right? That we will start deploying there. Because like I said, what we want to try to do is become a leading player in Spanish-speaking countries. And in order to do that, you have to think that for us from Spain, Latin America looks different than when you look at the region from the United States or when you look at the region from other European countries, right? In the sense that there are some countries that might not be interesting in a standalone basis because of their size, but they are very interesting for us from a Spanish perspective. For instance, Ecuador, it's a country that's 16 million people, right? So that probably means that there are somewhere around 7 to 8 million bank accounts, right? So it is really, it's a small country, right? And therefore, maybe not very interesting to launch that as a second or third market, right? You would want to cover that maybe at a later stage, right? However, when you look at Ecuador from Spain, there are 500,000 Ecuadorians that live here in Spain. I don't really have the number on top of my head, but I think it's somewhere around a couple of billion that flies from Spain to Ecuador yearly. You know that the second biggest polling station in the Ecuadorian presidential elections was in Spain. The second biggest was here in Madrid. Wow. So that gives a whole different perspective when you want to think of your international expansion, right? So we are starting Colombia and Peru because of this, and then we would need to sort of further analyze those corridors. Where is it that we want to position ourselves, right? Hold on a second, I'm running out of battery in my computer.
I wanted to ask, now we also have to finish, so of course I want to ask, how do people find out more? The website?
The easiest thing you can do is download the app and test it yourself. However, I understand that there's a lot of people here that do not have a Spanish IV or a Mexican IV.
Yeah.
So the easiest is you access our web and you can deep dive there, or feel free to reach out directly to me. I'm very happy to try and solve any questions that people might have or engage in conversations that might
they might possibly, yes, because a lot of people here were waiting to see this talk. Bnext is a very important player in the ecosystem. And I'm very, very happy that you found time to talk to us. We tried to schedule and we made it. And that's it. Good luck. And maybe we're going to do another interview next year in a couple of months to check out your other markets, as you mentioned.
I'm very happy to do that whenever you want. We're fully available, of course.
Great. Thank you for the attitude and everything. An amazing company, amazing product. I am a fan.
Thank you.
And we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Same. Bye-bye.